an interesting game. Obviously, they won, beat Northwestern 21-7, and you know, a lot of I had a friend and actually a viewer, Corey, who watches the show and a good friend of mine. But he had texted me and he feels more confident, with that Ohio State game coming up, just because of essentially at the O line and D line, he feels like Northwestern did a really good job on both of those fronts, the O line and D line, and obviously he feels like Michigan's offensive line and defensive line are better than Northwestern's, which I don't think too many people are going to argue with that. So that was his feeling in the game. Obviously, we still got a couple weeks left, but as an Ohio State fan, what was your take from the game? Obviously, it's a win, so you win and you get out of there. But what was your take on the game? The Ohio State beat Northwestern.
I think that Michigan is playing better overall than Ohio State right now for one specific reason. Michigan has arguably the best running attack in college football, and Ohio State is not moving people out of the way. They had a dismal rushing attack against Iowa. That was somewhat understandable. Iowa chose to man up the receivers and load the box, but still, they never ran the ball well against Iowa. Then Penn State, the same thing. They finally broke free mid fourth quarter against Penn State and popped some runs that broke free the game. But against Northwestern, same thing. If you look at the stats, I had somebody throw the stats in my face after I talked about Ohio State not being able to run the ball. And you got to understand the context of the stats. I'm a big stats guy too, but you got to understand the context. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, over and over and over. I don't know how many times Ohio State couldn't make a 3rd or a 4th and 1 against Northwestern, to the point where they finally had C.J. Stroud pull it and run around end and fool the entire Northwestern defense, because I don't think he's done that the entire season, and ran for 20, 25 yards. And then they had another designed play for C.J. Stroud. So point number one on Ohio State, and both have to do with the running game, is that no, 3 points. Number one is their offensive line. It's an offensive line issue, and it's mostly an interior offensive line issue. It's a guard issue on both sides of the line. That's most of their issue. Number two that I took away from that game is Ohio State scored its first touchdown on an end around with a lot of window dressing, but it turned out just to be an end around to Mecca Buka. And as soon as he scored that touchdown, after they couldn't run that entire first half, I thought, are they going to, this is the 3rd straight game they can't run the ball, and Northwestern was 109th in the nation against the run. Is this what they're going to do to supplement a traditional running game with running backs from traditional sets, try to utilize wide receivers in the running game and do some different things? And then once Stroud pulled it and ran, and then later in the game, they had another designed run for him. And that's when I really started thinking, okay, was Ryan Day waiting for the Michigan game to unleash C.J. Stroud as just, I don't want to call him a weapon. He's not a weapon, but hey, when it's completely unexpected, sure, he can put one foot in front of the other. He can run when there's this wide open space. Was he waiting for Michigan and this game got too uncomfortable that he brought it out early? Or did he think all along, I'm going to put this on tape a couple weeks before the Michigan game and make them have to prepare and use up practice time to prepare for this? And then my point number 3 is Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson, for as good as they are, they're both not anywhere close to 100%. So they got 2 hurt running backs.
Yeah, and I think that was Mayan Williams that had the wrist, injury in the Penn State game.
Yeah.
So I was watching that, and it was interesting. I was watching the Penn State game, and I was actually tweeting during it. because it obviously got tight at different spots, and there were gotta have it downs on third and long, and there was one third and long, and C.J. Stroud went to Marvin Harrison Jr., and of course, because he is unreal, he made the catch, first down. And I mean, just basically 2 plays later, it was another third and long, gotta have it. And I tweeted, man, if I were the defense coordinator for Penn State, I'd be double teaming number 18. I'm like, they're probably going to him. And lo and behold, he went back to 18 and he was open, made the catch, and he just made play after play. So he is terrific. But I do remember seeing, Williams banged up, kind of that wrist injury. I think he ended up coming out of the game. And Henderson, because I think both of those running backs are terrific. I mean, we've seen them both go over 100 yards, 150 plus. So they're really good, but, no matter how good you are as a running back, you've got to have, your O-line kind of in tandem,
Sure.
working together. And I think, to Michigan's credit, I think that's where it works out really well, is I think they have the especially in the run game, the perfect combination of your big guys are moving people, and you have dynamic running backs who can make moves at the second level, third level, and go 50, 60 yards to the house.
Yeah, Ohio State cannot get into a game where they're trying to beat an entire football team with 3 people, with Stroud and 2 receivers. And Ohio State's pass protection has been really good. So the offensive line is doing the job in that way, and these guys are going to be playing in the NFL. I don't know why they can't. I don't know why they can't create running lanes. It's bad.
Yeah, it's interesting because originally last year I was of the thought that I felt like Ryan Day has tendencies to get a little pass happy, but when you're not having production in the run game, then it's hard to stick with it. But sometimes just the threat of the run game is enough. But if a team knows that you're just only gonna just throw the ball and air it out, it gets really difficult to be as effective when they just know it's coming.
Michigan fans are going to laugh at this, and maybe Ohio State fans will cringe at it, but it may be a factor. We never talk about weather, but the weather at this game,
It may.
Ohio State wants it to be 60 and completely calm, and Michigan wouldn't mind what we saw around college football on Saturday, especially at Northwestern.
Yeah, it was that was some pretty wicked wind that was going on, but yeah, it absolutely would be interesting. I mean, I expect it, in the Midwest. Obviously, Mark, you used to live in I think Ohio, also Connecticut. So it's in November, especially around Thanksgiving. Even if the weather is calm, it's gonna at least be cold, and it most likely might be windy and snowing and raining. So you just never know. You just never know.